One of the greatest looking cars of all time. Now, if you want to argue with me in the comments section, you can, but you are wrong. Hey, my name is Andy, and this is Underrated, Overrated, Alfa Romeo Edition. Let's go. Now, Alfa Romeo have made so many cars, I'm not going to be able to cover every car they've ever made. I'm just going to be covering cars from the late 90s up until now. Starting with the Alfa Romeo 147. The Alfa Romeo 147 is a great little city runabout if you got it in a manual, and an absolute joke if you got it in the cellar speed automatic. That's right, the cellar speed was a dog of a gearbox. The car sucked, and if you bought it, you would be cursing that gearbox every single day and praying that it would actually go into gear so that it could get you to where you needed to go. This is a correctly rated car. Next, we've got the Alfa Romeo 156. The Alfa Romeo 156 looks kind of like the 147, although it's the sedan version. Now, the styling was a bit polarizing. I personally think it's an ugly car, but generally speaking, the 2-liter twin spark in them was pretty good. And if you got it in a manual, again, it was quite a good car. I gotta say, the Alfa 156, it's a little bit underrated. Next, we've got the Alfa 159. This is one of the most beautiful cars even today, but especially when it came out in the early 2000s. You got Italian styling, rubbish performance, but I mean, the Italians either do really amazing performance or they just don't even try. Vespa. The Alfa 159 looked great, could fit your whole family in it, had a beautiful interior, was fun to drive, and overall, it's an underrated car. Next up, we've got the 2003 Alfa Romeo Spider. It was only available in manual. That's right, they didn't make it as a garbage cellar speed. The styling, again, polarizing. I think it's pretty cool. It's got the light bar, which has now come back around in style. The 2003 Alfa Romeo Spider, it's actually quite underrated. The 2006 Alfa Spider, on the other hand, garbage. It borrows its styling from the 159, yes.
Nice.
But this car was overweight, underpowered, garbage gearbox. The 2006 Spider, it's overrated. Next, we've got the Alfa Romeo GTV. They're based on the same platform as the Spider, however, it's the hardtop version. Again, only available as a manual. And if you got the Alfa Romeo GTV 6, you got a glorious Busso V6, manual transmission, and amazing styling. The Alfa Romeo GTV, underrated. Next up, we've got the Alfa Romeo GT. Now, this is a grand touring Alfa Romeo that was designed for continent crossing in luxury. The styling never looked good to me. Even when it came out, it was a bit ugly, and now it just looks odd. It looks like that one person you just avoid at a social interaction. The Alfa Romeo GT is just, it's not it. It's overrated. Next, we've got the Alfa Romeo Brera. Now, the Brera is one of the greatest looking cars of all time. Now, if you want to argue with me in the comments section, you can, but you are wrong. The Alfa Romeo Brera is beautiful from any angle. It's a proper Alfa Romeo, and the Brera is vastly underrated. Next up, we've got the Alfa Romeo MiTo. The MiTo tried to bring some economy to the Alfa Romeo lineup, but I think overall it just cheapened the brand. It's just a rubbish car, honestly. The MiTo is just not a good car. So the MiTo is an overrated car. Now, the Alfa Romeo Giulietta was a gorgeous car when it came out. I still think it looks great, especially the spirally LED brake lights. The diesels were economical, the quadrifoglios were powerful. It was a great looking car, and it was at an attractive price. I feel like the Giulietta is an underrated car. Next up, we have the Alfa Romeo Giulia. Straight away, underrated. You had a Ferrari V8 with 2 cylinders lopped off of it, and even the entry-level models still looked great. If you're in one of these driving down the street, people are gonna notice. It's different. It's not your typical C-Class, it's not your typical 3 Series, it's something special and unique. The Alfa Romeo Giulia, underrated. Next, we've got the Alfa Romeo Stelvio. Now, the Stelvio is kind of like the Giulia, but it's up on stilts. It's a little 4-wheel drive, and it has way too much power for the size and weight that it is. In the case of sporty SUVs, you cannot have your cake and eat it too. It's a compromised sports car and it's a compromised SUV. It just ruins both. It's just not a great car. The Alfa Romeo Stelvio is overrated. Next, we've got the Alfa Romeo Disco Volante. This car is underrated as a motherfucker. It's beautiful. Gorgeous coach-built bodywork. Great performance. It was just a beautiful car. The Disco Volante is the car that you see in movies. It's the cars that you just dream about, and it's a gorgeous looking thing. there's not much more to be said about it, apart from the fact that it is very underrated. Next, we've got the Alfa Romeo TZ3 Stradale. It is gorgeous. Now, underneath that amazing bodywork, you actually have an ACR Viper. That's right, the TZ3 Stradale had the Viper's V10. Now, they only made 10 of these. There were 9 road-going versions and 1 track-focused version. I wish that Alfa Romeo made more of these and made them available to the public, because imagine this driving down your street. You'd probably need someone to give you CPR to revive you, because it's just that beautiful. The TZ3, perfection. Next up, we've got the Alfa Romeo 4C. The 4C is an underrated Alfa Romeo. That's right, it might only have a very small 1.6 liter engine, but it's very light and has a carbon fiber tub. They look great when they came out, and they still look great now. The Alfa Romeo 4C is underrated by a long shot. Now, last but not least, we've got the Alfa Romeo 8C. The Alfa Romeo 8C is a glorious looking car. They only made 1,000 Alfa Romeo 8Cs, 500 of which being the hardtop and 500 of which being the Spider model. Now, 8C stands for 8-cylinder. That's right, the 8C had a 4.7 liter Ferrari-derived V8. The 8C was described by Jeremy Clarkson as a piece of art on wheels, and I could not agree more. The Alfa Romeo 8C is absolutely underrated. Anyway, that's all I have for you guys today. Do you agree with my ratings? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed today's video, be sure to smash that like button, subscribe for more content just like this, and I'll see you guys in the next video. All Alfa Romeos have questionable reliability. They just do. You don't buy an Alfa Romeo knowing that it's going to be a reliable daily driver. You buy it for the passion and the soul that an Alfa Romeo has.